whoever we meet as a business unit, so it could be a small business unit like consumer branches or a big one like global investment bank, any of these tools that you want to use for smart contracts, stuff like that, we are simply going to do. I don't know how it's going to sort out.
Hey there, future millionaires. Welcome back to the channel. It's so good to see you again. I hope you're having an absolutely amazing day, no matter where you are around this beautiful world of ours. Today, we're diving deep into something that's going to blow your mind, and it's all about XRP. But before we get started, I want to share something incredible that JD Nomax just dropped, and honestly, it gave me chills. He said something that really hit home. XRP's growth will be institutional, not speculative. This is what real growth looks like. And you know what? He's absolutely right. Here's where it gets really exciting. NASDAQ just released a brand new analysis, and they're seeing something huge on the horizon. They believe the XRP ledger is positioning itself to become the network where everything comes together. We're talking banks, stablecoins, and tokenized assets all converging in one place. But here's what makes XRP so special, and why it's got that competitive edge. It's all about compliance, crystal clear regulations, built-in security that you can actually trust, and settlement times that are completely predictable. This isn't just hype, folks. This is the real deal. And get this. Here's exactly what NASDAQ is telling us, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. Over the next 3 years, XRP is about to explode in size. But we're not talking about some random pump here. We're talking about serious, game-changing growth. The network is going to roll out features that financial institutions are literally begging for. We're going to see massive amounts of capital flowing onto the chain through stablecoins and other digital assets. And here's the kicker. XRP is going to become the go-to platform for moving and storing real-world tokenized assets. Now, what's the secret sauce behind all of this? It's something that might sound boring at first, but trust me, it's pure gold. Regulatory compliance. XRP has already mastered this, and that's their superpower. I know. If you're holding XRP right now, it probably feels pretty boring, right? The price goes sideways, and then sideways some more. But here's what you need to understand. This is exactly what you want to see. All of that sideways action? That's not stagnation, my friends. That's momentum building up like a coiled spring, getting ready for an absolutely parabolic explosion. And while everyone's focused on the price just sitting there, there's this incredible amount of growth happening behind the scenes with this cryptocurrency. The foundation is being built as we speak. It's just not showing up in the price. Yet. Okay, this is huge news that's flying under the radar. Ledger is seriously considering going public with a New York Stock Exchange listing. And when you hear why, it's going to make perfect sense. Their revenues just exploded into triple-digit millions in 2025. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. But here's what's really interesting about how they got there. It's actually a double-edged story. On one hand, we've seen record-breaking crypto hacks this year, which is absolutely terrible for the people affected. But on the flip side, it's created this massive wake-up call for everyone in the crypto space. People are finally realizing, and I mean really understanding, that keeping your crypto on exchanges is like leaving your front door wide open. This surge in crypto security awareness has created an absolutely explosive demand for cold storage wallets. And Ledger, they're riding that wave perfectly. People are rushing to get their hands on hardware wallets like never before, and Ledger is right there to meet that demand. So while the reason behind their success isn't exactly something to celebrate, it shows just how crucial proper crypto security has become in today's market. Listen, I'm going to be brutally honest with you here, and this might save your entire crypto portfolio. I don't care who you are or how long you've been in crypto, you should not be keeping your coins on an exchange, period. You've heard me say it before, and I'll keep saying it until everyone gets it. Not your keys, not your crypto. Seriously, get your crypto off those exchanges right now. I'm literally begging you to do this because I care about your financial future. Here's the thing. You have absolutely no idea what's happening behind the scenes at these exchanges. Remember FTX? Everyone thought it was bulletproof. Celebrities were throwing endorsements left and right, making it seem like the safest place on earth. And then, boom! It all came crashing down like a house of cards. But here's what's coming next, and it's going to be even worse. I genuinely believe we're about to see a massive wave of people losing their crypto, and it's going to happen because they're using sketchy exchanges that don't follow proper KYC, that's Know Your Customer, or AML regulations, which is anti-money laundering compliance. When regulators crack down, these exchanges are going to get bottlenecked hard. That's why I'm actually thrilled about Ledger potentially going public. You know why? Because maybe, just maybe, it'll finally wake people up to the fact that they desperately need a cold storage wallet. I could literally tell you this every single day, and trust me, I practically do. But I know some of you are still going to keep your crypto sitting on exchanges. Don't be that person. All right, future millionaires, I need you to sit down for this one because what I'm about to tell you is going to change everything. This incredible insight comes from Mr. Man, and honestly, when I read this, it sent chills down my spine. Mark your calendars. January 1st, 2026. That's when the Basel III Endgame rules officially kick into high gear. And folks, we need to get ready because what's coming next is going to be absolutely wild. Here's the truth that nobody wants to talk about. We're looking at potential financial carnage. We're talking about banks failing left and right. Regular people are going to struggle in ways we haven't seen in years. And if you think the economic situation is challenging right now, just wait until these regulations hit full force. Want to know how serious this is? Even Jamie Dimon, yes, the Jamie Dimon, one of the most powerful bankers in the world, is literally terrified of Basel III. This guy was so scared that he actually went to Congress and begged them to scrap these requirements altogether. Why is he so panicked? Because Basel III forces banks to hold massive amounts of capital in reserve, way more than they're comfortable with. And when banks can't leverage money the way they're used to, that's when things get really interesting for the rest of us. This is huge, and most people have no idea what's coming. So here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. I actually went ahead and asked Grok how XRP could potentially solve this massive Basel III problem. And the answer? It literally blew my mind. Let me break this down for you in simple terms. XRP is the native cryptocurrency that powers the XRP ledger, which was developed by Ripple. Now, this isn't just some random digital coin. It's specifically engineered for lightning-fast, super low-cost money transfers through something called Ripple's on-demand liquidity service. Here's the genius part. XRP acts like a universal bridge for cross-border payments. Instead of banks having to hold massive amounts of different currencies all around the world, they can source money from the open market and convert it through XRP in literally seconds. We're talking about solving transactions that used to take days, and this directly hits Basel III where it hurts the most. You see, what Ripple is really trying to do, and this is brilliant, is unlock all of that Nostro money. For those who don't know, Nostro accounts are basically money that banks have to park in foreign countries to facilitate international transfers. Think about it this way. Instead of banks having to tie up billions of dollars sitting in accounts all over the globe, XRP allows them to free up that capital and bring it back home. No more liquidity problems. No more having massive amounts of money just sitting there doing nothing in different countries around the world. This is exactly how XRP could completely solve the bank's Basel III nightmare. And here's the crazy part. Practically nobody is talking about this right now. We're less than 2 months away from these requirements kicking in, and XRP might just be sitting there with the perfect solution. Bitcoin and crypto sell-off reminiscent of post-2000.com crash. All right, let me paint you a picture of what's really happening behind the scenes right now. We're seeing these long-term crypto and Bitcoin investors, the smart money, the people who've been holding for years. They're starting to sell off their assets. And you know what? This is actually preventing crypto from hitting that massive blow-off top that everyone's been waiting for. But here's the thing about crypto that drives me absolutely crazy, and maybe you've experienced this too. Right when it seems like everything is completely over, like this cycle is totally done and dusted, bam! Crypto starts climbing back up again like nothing ever happened. And then what happens next? The FOMO kicks in hard. Suddenly everyone's scrambling to get back in because they're terrified of missing out on the next big run. It's like clockwork, and it happens every single time. But here's where things get really interesting this cycle. I honestly don't think people are going to be FOMOing into Bitcoin anymore, not when it's sitting around 100K. Think about it. That's a massive psychological barrier for most people. And Ethereum? Forget about it. Most regular folks can't even afford to buy one full Ethereum anymore. It's just way too expensive for the average investor. So here's what I think is going to happen, and this is where it gets exciting. People are going to take whatever money they have and put it into solid altcoins that actually make sense. I'm talking about coins like XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR. These aren't just random cryptocurrencies, folks. These are tokens that we know for a fact can be utilized within the ISO 20022 standard. But every time the media wants to talk about crypto crashing, you know what really gets me? Everyone's constantly looking backwards, thinking that history is just going to keep repeating itself like some broken record. People are already talking about the next big cycle in 2028. Can you believe that? We don't even know if that traditional cycle pattern is going to exist anymore. Here's what everyone's missing. Utility is about to completely shatter that old 4-year cycle pattern. And guess what's happening right now, as we speak? We're standing on the absolute edge of massive institutional adoption, especially with all the regulatory clarity that's finally coming to the United States. This isn't just going to stay in America, folks. This institutional adoption is going to create a domino effect that leads to mass adoption all around the globe. So here's my big question. How do we go back to those wild, speculative runs that we've seen in the past? Honestly, I just don't see it happening anymore. Utility is going to change absolutely everything. This is a whole new game now. But here's where it gets really sneaky, and this is what makes me absolutely furious. You want to know how the banks are positioning themselves? They're out there in the mainstream media, on every news channel, telling everyone that Bitcoin and crypto are only used for shady, illicit activities. There's no real value in crypto, they say. The government should just get rid of it completely. But wait until you hear what Jamie Dimon is doing behind closed doors at the exact same time. This is going to blow your mind.
So let's tackle something that's been a little bit interesting for a couple of years. So you've been famously skeptical about Bitcoin. But I think you've come off of that a little bit over the last 6 months or 12 months. And I know JP Morgan uses a lot of blockchain, token, and a lot of innovation into your business and your approach. How do you balance the risk of investing in technologies that are going to drive innovation and future growth? And what are your thoughts on stablecoin and Bitcoin? That's a loaded question.
This is a great way to deal with an issue or something like that. Whenever we meet as a business unit, so it could be a small business unit like consumer branches or a big one like global investment banking, on the table and on the agenda is what are you doing in tech, AI, et cetera. That is always on the agenda. And I do it differently than other people. I don't say what's in your budget. I always say, are you doing everything you need to do to win in the future, period. And I don't care what the budget says. I don't care what it is. And you may walk in and say, you know what, I was just over somewhere, I really need to do X. My view is, you better be doing X. So to me, the budget is a roadmap. It is not your boss. And so I make people, we're going to do that. Stablecoin was one where I don't know how it's going to play out. But that also answers my question is, what do we do about it? We're involved. We're building a stable coin. We may build it with other banks. We have a JP Morgan deposit coin already, which I can pay you interest on. We use the blockchain. Any of these tools that you want to use for smart contracts, stuff like that, we are simply going to do. I don't know how it's going to sort out. But I'd rather be plain, which keeps us smart, than acting like I know the answer to it. And so, and we do that with all technology. Whether, sometimes regardless of what I think about it, I want you to be dabbling in it. Because you're being smart, and it is much more important than saying Jamie does or doesn't like it and something like that. So, and we do that with almost all frontier type of technologies.
And here's the kicker. It's not just JP Morgan pulling this sneaky move. We're talking about practically every major bank out there doing the exact same thing. So let me get this straight. They go on TV, they get on podcasts, they write articles telling you and me that crypto is terrible, that it's only used for criminal activity, that it's going to destroy the financial system. But what are they doing when the cameras aren't rolling? They're quietly embracing crypto like their lives depend on it. Why? Because here's the brutal truth that they don't want you to know. Banks absolutely have to keep up with technology, whether they like it or not. Technology doesn't care about their feelings, it doesn't slow down, it doesn't take breaks, and it certainly doesn't wait for anyone. It just keeps advancing into the future, and if any bank wants to survive, let alone thrive, they have to embrace whatever's coming next. That's exactly why JP Morgan is diving headfirst into stablecoins right now. Goldman Sachs, they're doing the exact same thing. And mark my words, soon it's going to be every single bank in the world following suit. We're literally watching the transition happen right before our eyes, from all the hype and speculation to real, actual utility. This is history in the making, folks. Stablecoin payments surge $41 billion in Q3 of 2025. And here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Stablecoin payments are about to absolutely explode. This is exactly why Ripple went ahead and created RLUSD. It's why Jamie Dimon rolled out JP Morgan Coin. These guys aren't stupid. They see what's coming. But here's the genius part that most people completely miss. Every single bank needs a bridge currency. Think about it for a second. Do you really think Goldman Sachs is going to accept JP Morgan Coin? Of course not. There's no way they're going to use their competitor's digital currency. So here's how it actually works in the real world. You start with JP Morgan coin, it gets converted into XRP as the universal bridge, and then it comes out the other side as Goldman Sachs coin or Bank of America's coin or whatever digital currency that institution is using. It's brilliant. But let me tell you what's really happening here. And this is the master plan that nobody's talking about. Stablecoins are basically crypto training wheels. They're getting everybody comfortable with digital money because they're pegged one-to-one with the US dollar. So it feels safe. It feels familiar. Once banks get completely used to moving stablecoins around, which is basically their introduction to the crypto world, that's when the real magic happens. They'll naturally start utilizing utility tokens like XRP, XLM, XDC, and all the others. We're literally watching the crypto adoption playbook unfold right in front of us, and most people don't even realize it. Exactly. That's how I see it too. Stablecoins are literally the gateway drug to crypto. They're getting everyone comfortable with digital assets before they dive into the real stuff. And speaking of diving in, check out this absolutely mind-blowing headline that just dropped. Crypto craze sweeps hedge funds as 55% add digital assets to portfolios. Wait, let me say that again because this is huge. We're talking about 55% of hedge funds now adding crypto to their portfolios. These are the smartest money managers in the world, the people who move billions of dollars with a single decision, and they're rushing into crypto like never before. This isn't some random retail FOMO anymore, folks. This is institutional money. Serious, sophisticated investors who do months of research before making any move. And they're saying yes to crypto in record numbers. And trust me, this trend is just getting started. We're going to see absolutely everyone jumping into crypto. I'm talking about a complete transformation of the financial world. Just look at what's happening with 401ks right now. Suddenly, all these retirement fund managers are scrambling to add crypto options because they're finally waking up to reality. They're thinking, holy cow, this really is the future. We need to get in early before everyone else does. It's like a massive race where nobody wants to be left behind. Because here's the thing. Once your competition gets in first, you're stuck playing catch-up. And in the financial world, being second means losing billions. The exact same thing is happening with banks, and this is where it gets really exciting. When banks start using crypto on a daily basis, not just experimenting, but actually using it for real transactions, it's going to trigger what I call the ultimate network effect. Here's the beautiful part. You only need 2 banks in the entire world to make this happen. Just 2. Picture this. One bank in the US starts using crypto regularly, and one bank in China, or Japan, or anywhere else does the same thing. The moment that happens, every other bank on the planet is going to sit up and take notice. They'll see the speed, the cost savings, the efficiency, and they'll think, we can't afford not to do this. Then another bank jumps in, then another, and another. That's how you get true mass adoption. It starts with just 2, and then it becomes unstoppable.
Trump pledges to sign Clarity Act, fast-tracking U.S. crypto rules as China accelerates.
You know what's interesting? I never really see China talking much about crypto publicly. I honestly think that whole narrative about them being crypto competitors is just so the US can keep pushing forward with their own agenda without looking desperate. But let's dive into what this Clarity Act is actually going to do, because this is where things get absolutely game-changing. First off, it finally defines what digital commodities are. Any assets that function like commodities are going to fall under the CFTC. That's the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which means spot markets finally get a clear federal watchdog. No more confusion. But here's the smart part. It keeps the SEC in the game where they actually belong. If something involves capital raising and looks like a security, it still has to follow SEC disclosure rules and anti-fraud protections. They're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. The whole goal is to stop this ridiculous regulation by lawsuit approach we've been seeing, without making things less safe for investors. Instead of forcing blockchain companies to squeeze into outdated equity market rules, they're creating custom compliance pathways for exchanges, brokers, and custodians. Plus, it spells out crystal-clear standards for market integrity, surveillance, custody, conflicts of interest, and listing requirements specifically for digital assets. No more guesswork for compliance teams and banks. They'll know exactly what they need to do. But here's what's really going to happen, and this is huge. This act is going to force every exchange to either get compliant or get out. There's no middle ground anymore. Even more importantly, it's going to separate speculation from utility. And that's where I think XRP is going to absolutely shine. Here's why. Institutions hate uncertainty. They don't want to invest in something that could blow up because of some random unknown factor. Think about Bitcoin for a second. What happens if the world suddenly finds out who Satoshi really is and Bitcoin crashes? Or what if this mysterious Satoshi decides to dump all their Bitcoin and send the price into free fall? Institutions need someone they can actually hold accountable, someone who's running the show. Now, the Act also protects consumer choice and privacy, which I love. It includes safeguards around a U.S. central bank digital currency and has reporting requirements that address everyone's concerns about financial surveillance. One thing I'm really happy about is that the U.S. is backing away from creating their own central bank digital currency. But let me be real with you. A stablecoin and a CBDC aren't really that different. The only difference is who's issuing it. That's literally it.
You know what's interesting? I never really see China talking much about crypto publicly. I honestly think that whole narrative about them being crypto competitors is just so the US can keep pushing forward with their own agenda without looking desperate. But let's dive into what this Clarity Act is actually going to do, because this is where things get absolutely game-changing. First off, it finally defines what digital commodities are. Any assets that function like commodities are going to fall under the CFTC. That's the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which means spot markets finally get a clear federal watchdog. No more confusion. But here's the smart part. It keeps the SEC in the game where they actually belong. If something involves capital raising and looks like a security, it still has to follow SEC disclosure rules and anti-fraud protections. They're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. The whole goal is to stop this ridiculous regulation by lawsuit approach we've been seeing, without making things less safe for investors. Instead of forcing blockchain companies to squeeze into outdated equity market rules, they're creating custom compliance pathways for exchanges, brokers, and custodians. Plus, it spells out crystal clear standards for market integrity, surveillance, custody, conflicts of interest, and listing requirements specifically for digital assets. No more guesswork for compliance teams and banks. They'll know exactly what they need to do. But here's what's really going to happen, and this is huge. This act is going to force every exchange to either get compliant or get out. There's no middle ground anymore. Even more importantly, it's going to separate speculation from utility. And that's where I think XRP is going to absolutely shine. Here's why. Institutions hate uncertainty. They don't want to invest in something that could blow up because of some random unknown factor. Think about Bitcoin for a second. What happens if the world suddenly finds out who Satoshi really is and Bitcoin crashes? Or what if this mysterious Satoshi decides to dump all their Bitcoin and send the price into free fall? Institutions need someone they can actually hold accountable, someone who's running the show. Now, the Act also protects consumer choice and privacy, which I love. It includes safeguards around a U.S. central bank digital currency and has reporting requirements that address everyone's concerns about financial surveillance. One thing I'm really happy about is that the U.S. is backing away from creating their own central bank digital currency. But let me be real with you. A stablecoin and a CBDC aren't really that different. The only difference is who's issuing it. That's literally it.